financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. I hope you all are having an amazing day. It is finally hump day, you guys. That's right. It's Wednesday, January 3rd, and today is National Drinking Straw Day. That's right. Support plastic straws everywhere. And it's also...
Suck on a straw, baby.
Oh, boy. Here we go. There goes that strip club reference again, Rico. It's also National Chocolate-Covered Cherry Day. There's another strip club reference. And thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look down below to see where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, Facebook, and Instagram. So welcome to everyone joining us from any of those audiences. It's 6 platforms, Luke, just so you know. It's more than 5 fingers, just FYI. But nonetheless, we have the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte, who happens to be rocking a ball cap today because he obviously didn't comb his hair. And he still has his paper
You
bag.
love to say that. You love to say that. I'm gonna start beginning to think that's racism, Jason. This is 2024. We need to leave that behind.
Why is that racism?
Super racist.
Hold on,
I'm beginning
hold
to
on.
think that, man. I didn't
Combing
say it
your
was.
hair is racist
I didn't
now?
say it was. I'm beginning to think that, Jason.
Combing.
Beginning.
All right. Well, you know,
Jason, how come you didn't say
it's
nothing about me
Rico.
wearing a hat, though?
it's
How
Rico
come you didn't say
Lamitte.
anything about me wearing a hat?
You have no hair,
on.
Luke.
Why can't you say
You're bald.
Why can't you say
You
Luke
can't count.
didn't do his hair today? You know what I'm saying?
Luke definitely
Did
didn't do his hair
did Luke
because
not do his hair?
Luke doesn't
Come
have
on,
his,
you know what I'm
doesn't
saying?
have any hair.
Why are you worried about that?
I
Why are
don't
you
know.
worried?
Only Manndie can answer that
You know,
question.
my hair is looking fresh and frothy this morning. You know what I'm saying? As
Rico,
always,
you looking
with the
fly
hat,
AF,
with
bro.
a hat or without a hat. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
I go in and I pull out.
I bet. Pull-out game strong over here, you guys. That's right. That's right. Oh, yes, that's right. It is the dope dad himself whose pull-out game isn't strong, or else he wouldn't be a dope dad. That's right. It is none other than Rico Lamitte.
I would like to counter that argument, Jason, by saying, pull-out game lasted 32 years before I dropped my first. No, 37 years.
I mean,
anyways,
just lets you.
Anyways, with a cannabis use is cannabis is still the world's most used substance, and according to the United Nations report that was released today. As the United Nations just released their 2023 substance abuse report, and it said with an estimated 219 million cannabis users worldwide, we have extended our reign as the world's most used substance, while opioids continues to be the most causation of harm. Can we get a round of applause for weed around the world? Can we get that, please, Adam? Yes. As I fight off my little RSV that I'm going through here, please bear with me. But the report's executive summary stated that the drug use continues to be high worldwide. In 2021, the 1 in every 17 people aged 15 to 64 in the world had used a drug in the past 12 months. Estimated number of users grew from 240 million in 2011 to 296 million in 2021. And that's 5.8% of the global population aged 15 to 64. There's a 23% increase, partly due to population growth. According to the report, cannabis continues to be the most used drug with estimated 219 million users, 4.3% of the global adult population. And that number is trending upward. perhaps a byproduct of legalization in the United States and elsewhere. But the report also showed a gender divide when it comes to pot use. Use of the drug is increasing, and although globally cannabis users are mostly men, about 70%, the gender divide is reducing in some sub-regions. Women account for 42% of cannabis users in North America. Big round of applause for the ladies. How about that? Make sure you guys attend the Women's Canna Awards this year, too. You like that little drop I did there, Manndie? Teamwork.
Yeah.
Opioids, meanwhile, continue to be the group of substance with the highest contribution to severe drug-related harm, including fatal overdoses. That will come as little surprise to those in the United States, which have been mired in an opioid epidemic for more than 2 decades. According to the Centers of the CDC, the number of people in the U.S. who died from a drug overdose in 2021 was 6 times the number in 1999. The number of drug overdose deaths increased more than 16% from 2020 to 2021. Among the nearly 107,000 drug overdose deaths in the U.S. in 2021, more than 75% of them involved an opioid. The CDC says that the rise in opioid overdose deaths can be outlined in 3 distinct waves. The first began with increased prescribing of opioids in the 1990s, with overdose deaths involving prescription opioids, both natural and synthetic opioids, and methadone, increasing since at least 1999. The second wave began in 2010 at a rapid increase in overdose deaths involving heroin. Get a big shout out to the Sacklers for that. The third wave began in 2013 with significant increase overdose deaths involving synthetic opioids, particularly those involving illicitly manufactured fentanyl. The market for illicitly manufactured fentanyl continues to change, and it can be found in a combination of heroin, counterfeit pills, and cocaine. So big win for cannabis spreading all over the world. If you want to see the full report, there should be links to that, including in this story on where, Jason? High9news.com.
That's right. You forgot the W.
But I am interested in hearing the rest of the team's thought on this. Weed for the world. I like it, man.
I mean, it's amazing that the UN is saying that cannabis is so popular, but yet they're not doing anything about their policies in regards to it.
I think that's mostly because the U.S. needs to take the lead on it. I mean, the UN, you can drop the N and just put S on the end of that. It's basically an organization that was created by us.
We do fund it. We do fund it.
It's an organization that was created by us. It was right after the League of Nations that was created by us.
It might as well be FUBU, right? It might as well be FUBU.
Yeah, right.
Oh, boy.
So, that's just going to be when the U.S. leads on it. Now, this is my thing, though. I think that number, Rico, was it 2.8% of the world's population? I didn't. 5. It was a single digit. It was pretty small. And I think that number is a lot larger. And here, there's a couple reasons. Yeah. Is because in most countries that they're asking this question, cannabis is punishable by some pretty severe penalties, sometimes death. So you're not going to get a lot of people to go onto a poll and say, hey, yeah, I use cannabis. In the U.S., of course, it's becoming more accepted. But even before I went into prison, when these polls came out, a lot of people were very leery about answering them correctly or accurately or truthfully. So, I think that number is a lot bigger, but we need to get it much bigger, right? Because I am like a strong believer in the more people are touched by the plant, the more people interact with the plant, the more people that grow the plant, the more people that cultivate it, the more people that consume it, the better off the general community and society is. There's, of course, limitations on it, excess and all that stuff. But, generally speaking, overall, the cannabis plant has so many benefits to it that the more people that are able to experience it, the better off they're going to be. So I'm with it, man. Applaud the world. Keep going, world. Keep growing. Keep blazing. Keep consuming. It's the one.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Luke said, especially what he said about, we saw the same thing in the U.S. prior to states starting to legalize adult use, where everything is self-reported, right? So when you live in a place where prohibition still exists, your self-reporting is naturally going to be a lot lower. But I'd be interested to see how that number is impacted when places with really big populations, like for example India, where they're just starting to dip their toes into a regulated medical program, I mean, they have, 1.5 billion people. So if they hit 10% of their population becoming regular cannabis users, think about the impact that has on, the percentage of people around the world.
Did you throw China in here?
I said India, not China.
Oh, India. Okay. All right. That makes more sense. That makes more sense.
I don't know enough about China's marijuana laws to talk about. I know a little bit more about
Let me tell you
India's.
something. China's marijuana laws, you go to jail. That's China's marijuana laws.
Yeah. Period.
Yeah.
That's it.
India, I'm sure it's the same.
More than
but,
jail. It's more than jail. It depends on how you get caught in China, but they will execute you.
I'm not saying that they wouldn't.
When I hear things like this, it makes me just reflect on the fact that, or not fact, excuse me, but reflect on what the world would be like today had this plant never been outlawed, right? And where we would be at with mental health therapies and all sorts of different medical treatments that we already know that this plant is helpful for, but just how much farther along, and also how irrelevant things like this news show would be had this plant never been outlawed, right? Like everything that we're doing is news worthy, sort of.
Everything I do is newsworthy.
Because it's new.
Speak for yourself.
As this plant becomes a bigger piece of overall wellness acceptance on a global scale, I think that we're going to start to see a lot more unity in a lot of different things, in the way that we treat people medicinally, the way that we interact with each other in social platforms. I just really think that this plant is a major uniter and has the potential not to solve the world's problems, but definitely to help people see things through a different lens.
I think it can help a lot of problems overall. I don't think it's going to cure. I don't think it's going to create world peace, but it definitely can create a lot of ends to a lot of economic strife that's happening across the world. That's for sure.
I say it's bullshit, Jason. I say we can create world peace.
Stop it.
Straight up.
You're a dreamer.
Why can't it not?
You're a dreamer.
Like on some real shit. Like on
the only thing that can
you don't have to think massively.
The only thing that can create world peace would be the will of people that.
I'm not saying it will. I'm saying it could.
It's not. You're a dreamer.
Some people say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one.
Yes, and with all these dreams, we're gonna go to a commercial and dream about one.
How's it going, guys? Saman Razani coming to you from Green Street here with Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast available on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify? Tune in now and check it out.
He's known for smoking the best weed in the world. But you know what? You just might catch him in the next few weeks campaigning in Maine and campaigning in Colorado to get former despots back on the ballot. Y'all know who it is. Jason Beck.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry, bro. He's going to be there. I'm not worried about any of that, okay? You know what? But I'll tell you what you should be worried about. You know why? Because the Tennessee agriculture officials want to curb CBD and THCA smokables, and they offer a cryptic response to questions, you guys. That's right. Tennessee lawmakers passed legislation to begin regulating hemp-derived cannabinoid products last year, banning the selling of them to those under the age of 21. But the Tennessee Department of Agriculture's new rules submitted in December go further and attempt to curb the selling of hemp-derived cannabinoid products like like THCA and CBD flower by changing the rules around what qualifies as THC. The psychoactive ingredient most commonly found in marijuana, Tennessee law prevents any cannabinoid product containing 0.3% Delta-9 THC from being sold, keeping marijuana illegal in the state. The federal hemp farm bill passed in 2018 legalized the growing of hemp plants containing Delta-8. That's not true. And opened up the door to new forms of THC-like products. That's not necessarily true either, but okay. THCA and CBD are legally sold as smokable flowers and in edibles in Tennessee, and THCA flower has become popular because it's considered non-psychoactive by state law. It essentially becomes THC when it comes in contact with a flame. THCA and CBD flowers are often indistinguishable from traditional marijuana, except when tested in a lab, and this makes it harder for law enforcement officials to distinguish between the different cannabinoid products, potentially leading to fewer probable cause police searches and raids by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations. The problem has arisen most recently in Chattanooga, where a hemp show owner is suing the city's police department, alleging his products were wrongly seized during a traffic stop because they were mistaken for illegal marijuana. The Department of Agriculture declined to specify to specifically answer questions sent. Instead, Kim Doddrich, the department spokesperson, responded to all questions by stating the proposed rules establish requirements for hemp-derived cannabinoid products as required by the legislation. The rulemaking for this new legislation is still underway. Tennessee lawmakers tried to ban hemp-derived products outright in 2022, but couldn't muster up the votes necessary to pass the measure. State officials estimate selling Delta 8 and similar products generated $180 million in economic value for the state, and this prompted lawmakers to look at regulating the industry rather than banning the products. Oh, because they're getting that money. That's why. The new law also gave the Department of Agriculture the authority to write rules around regulating Delta 8, CBD, and THC products. And the department submitted these rules in December, which go into effect as early as July 1st, 2024. The Department of Agriculture will hold a public hearing on the changes February 2nd in Nashville, Tennessee, you guys. Well. Sounds like Tennessee is coming after all your THCA flowers, so where are you guys going to go on the internet to buy that if you live in Tennessee? That's what I want to know, and this is Jason Beck for the High at 9 News. What do y'all think?
Man.
Probably just drive over to Kentucky or somewhere, Texas.
I mean,
Pretty much.
it depends.
This whole listen, the whole THCA thing is, I mean,
It's so funny, right?
I'm just sitting back looking at the whole thing. I got a hunch of which way this is gonna go, but I mean, this almost hilarious.
It is. It's absolutely hilarious. I've gotten into an argument with a guy at a smoke shop here in Texas because he was, trying to explain to me. I'm like, you don't know, THCA is like that's just flour, bro. Like that is regular flour. Like it's a loophole of when it's being tested and how they're calculating the percentage. And he argued with me for 20 minutes, and then he got frustrated and left. And the next time I saw him, he apologized to me and was like, "Oh, my bad, bro. I was like, dude, I'm telling you, that is just flour."
I mean, listen, me and Rico got together last weekend and we sniffed a kilo of THCA and we didn't even get high. I don't know what happened.
Canna bumps.
It was crazy. We did all kinds of green lines.
No, but I mean, I'm just joking. Any of the watchers, don't sniff THCA, and we did not. We didn't do that.
Yeah,
so
just snort CBD, I guess, right?
Yeah, just CBD. Go to your local cereal shop.
Whatever we
you know what's actually really good to sniff is do a little bump of some keef. I think you'll really enjoy that.
Oh my God, that sounds so ratchet.
Whenever we bring up,
do not do that.
Whenever we bring up the Cannabis thing, I got to bring it back to how silent the
Not like the
doctors
cinnamon
were.
challenge, but with keef.
Yeah.
Is that what's going on here?
Like how silent the doctors were, and Dr. T and I think it's Dr. T and Dr. Felicia both confirmed that taking it through the nose is the most effective way to
I
get
thought
the
they said
medicine
putting up your butt was the most
Yeah, I was
effective
gonna say.
way.
I think you're thinking of boofing.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of boofing, bro. You're confusing boofing with spoofing.
No, we could actually run. We actually run the tape.
We're gonna run the tape. Yeah, okay.
They did say suppositories were quicker, but a more accepted use publicly would probably be snorting it. And snorting THC through the nostrils actually gets it into your system better.
Hold on, did you say the more popular use was the suppository?
More publicly accepted use.
More publicly
would be the
I guess that
snorting.
would be what community you're asking, right?
You're probably not going to go to a suppositories party. I mean, I should retract that statement.
You might be able to.
On anybody. Like there might be some suppository parties going on, but
so our spot in BTLA.
I have a question.
If you're going to do that, guys, there's an accessory we used to use in medicine called a finger cot. It's a condom for one finger, so you can stick it up their ass and not get all over your hand. We're going to have to add those. That'll be new merch.
You'll find that You'll find that in a harm reduction clinic near you somewhere.
Okay. I can't hear anymore.
Beat me to the punch on that one. Do you find that in one of those booths?
I just wonder. I just have a serious question for you guys. Is it all? Is it still considered boofing if you're sticking it up your nose too?
Yeah, I don't think it's called boofing.
I think you could still call it. I mean, you're still sticking it in an orifice.
Yeah, but it's the way it's being absorbed is different.
Let you tell it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If it's like crystalline or if it's like.
All right, how about this, Jason? Next time you go to a party, why don't you bust out a bag of some THCA and ask people if they want to boof it? And when they
not my style,
see
bro.
what they think.
Not my style. Not my style. I'll let you do that out in Austin.
Got these diamonds,
the only city that permits that in Texas. Yes, but we did have two very interesting comments in the chat, you guys. My buddy Anthony, Mr. Spado, he's talking about snowballs. He thinks you guys should snort some snowballs. Yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring that up.
Yes,
those are gross. Have you seen them?
Of course, they're gross.
Snowballs?
They're like
they're disgusting. They're snowballs.
Nugs of weed.
They're just like old school honey bud with dirty keef all around it.
Yeah, they're disgusting.
Yeah,
like
super ratchet.
Yeah, you could get super high.
What are we back in? We back in like 2013 right now.
They're like old school moon rocks back in the day.
Yeah, it sounds like moon rocks.
Yeah, and then also too.
Yeah, it's much more intense than moon rocks.
And Vermont Alternative, he said that the latest thing that is being sold in Canada is THCA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Selling.
I just don't know. I just don't know what these kids are doing nowadays.
Mm-hmm. I mean, apparently they're. I mean, I don't even want to go into what the kids are doing, bro. It's just all bad. And on that, we're gonna roll right on into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. He's the founder of Armada Law Practice, and at one point in time did some time for a cannabis crime. And he has a breaking lawsuit that everybody wants to hear about today. That's right, it is none other than attorney at law and founder of Armada Law Practice, Mr. Dale Schafer.
Good morning, everybody. It's your favorite Tio Loco out here in the West Coast. We're finally getting some rain and snow in the mountains here. My story this morning involves Catalyst, and they've sued the state of California over the state demanding that they pay a tax on cannabis accessories. And this one's going to be a battle. And it starts with a proposition that we passed here in California, Prop 64, which actually set the excise tax and what it could be collected from, which is cannabis and cannabis products. And they define that as from the plant or it goes through a process to convert the plant into some usable product. That also defines cannabis accessories as everything else, including stuff you use to smoke or inhale or ingest cannabis. So what we have here is some changing of the tax laws that took place at the end of 22, or actually beginning of 2023. And Prop 64 placed the burden of collecting this tax on a retailer. The state changed that quickly and put it on the distributor. And then they changed it back to the retailer starting January 1 of 23. And what was allowed to happen is a distributor could segregate and separately state the value of a cannabis accessory that had some cannabis product in it. These are typically disposable vape pens or vape carts. Okay, and you buy them. They had some cannabis in them, but they had a battery and they had a heating element and a bunch of other shit. And when you're done, you throw it away. Okay. And what had happened is the distributors would state the value of the cannabis product on an invoice as it moved to the retailer. You would only charge the excise tax on the cannabis product, and that seemed to be cool. Okay, until they changed the rules to the retailer, and our Department of Tax and Fee Administration decided that no, the entire vape pen value was going to now be taxed, the excise tax. And so they went after Catalyst. And just to be clear, this is one of the Catalyst branded retail stores. And I'm going to assume every one of them has a different separate corporation that owns it, but they're Catalyst retailers. And the state decided, well, we're going to audit you. And they determined that Catalyst had grossly underpaid their excise tax because they had issued these separate statements on their invoices that let's say the vape pen's $40 and the value of the product in it is only $5, they'd only charge you the 15% of that, which was, cents on the dollar. But the state wanted the entire 15% of the $40 value, and that's where Catalyst said, nah, if you do that, we're going to appeal it. The state actually did it. They issued a notice of determination of taxes due, and Catalyst appealed it. And Catalyst in their appeal said, we're standing on the rules that say you can only tax cannabis and cannabis products, and what we had previously done, which the CDFA signed off on. Okay. Well, what Catalyst is saying is that immediately after they filed their appeal, the CDTFA proposed emergency regulations to change the rules about how you tax cannabis accessories. And Catalyst is claiming that you rammed it through. Their emergency authority ran out in the end of 2023, so they had to get it on the books before the end of the year. They rammed it through. They manufactured an emergency, and they did secret changes to an existing regulation, and they created a new regulation, which came up with the term optional tangible personal property. One of these things that got pulled right out of somebody's ass, and attorneys just make a lot of money because no one knows what it means, and we fight about it for years. But realistically, it means if you buy a separate vaping device and you can put a cartridge in it, and the separate device is optional. You don't have to buy it with the vape cart. But if you have to buy the entire device together with the cannabis product in it, then it's going to be taxed as a cannabis product. That's where the pissing match starts. Okay, so Catalyst has sued the Department of Tax and Fee Administration and the Office of Administrative Law. It's supposed to look at these regulations and approve them. And they're claiming they both colluded to ram this through to take away their ability to appeal the determination they owe taxes. Now, this is going to be a war, folks, because if you haven't heard about California, it'll take every opportunity to tax the shit out of you. It's just the nature of the beast here. And under our initiative rules, the voters pass an initiative. It can't be changed unless you follow specific rules inside the initiative that allow it to be changed. Well, our initiative said you can only tax cannabis and cannabis products. Okay? And if you're going to increase the tax, you have to go back to the legislature and get a supermajority vote to allow an increase. There's the start of the war. If you're going to now allow them to tax cannabis accessories, that seems to me like it's an increase in tax, and they didn't go to the legislature and get their necessary supermajority vote. That's just one of the problems. Okay. Another one is that the legislature had granted the CDFA the authority to engage in emergency regulations, and if they enact an emergency regulation, that regulation can be valid for up to 2 years. Okay, so there's going to be a war here over how long this is going to last. In a realistic sense, once you enact a law, especially in California, getting it undone is almost impossible. So if they start collecting against these cannabis accessories, and it's going to be valid for 2 years, by the time we get into 2 years, the legislature will find some way to rubber stamp this and keep it going. So what I see coming is potentially a class action here for anybody who followed these previous rules and separately stated the value of the cannabis product from the accessory, and they're going to now don't want to pay extra taxes. And what I'm not clear about how this is going to be done is if you didn't separately state these values, are you in a line to get a refund if it turns out that you can't tax people for a cannabis accessory? I don't have an answer for this yet. I want to emphasize this is just the complaint. It's a verified complaint, so everything in this is attested to be true, so the state can't just say, oh, we disagree. No, you got to answer every allegation in this line by line and either admit it, deny it, or deny it based upon lack of information and belief. So this is going to be a mess going forward. My firm is handling some of this stuff, so we're happy to answer questions, but this is going to be a Pier 6 brawl here because I think people have overpaid taxes to a significant extent in this state, And maybe it's time that we ask to have some of that back and definitely stop the state from collecting more taxes from people who thought they were filing the rules. And it looks like they're trying to make this retroactive back to January 1st of 23. And in legal terms, that's an ex post facto law. You can't move the goal line back to a point where people were doing things that they thought were legal and go, oh, no, we're going to make it illegal ex post facto back to when we want it to start.
That's not
true.
Unconstitutional. They can do that, and they've done it in the past.
Well, yeah, but you can go to court and stop them. And that's what I'm saying. Ex post facto laws are unconstitutional, like bills of attainder, where you draft a law in Congress or legislature says, I'm going to go charge some particular person. You can't do that either. I mean, they can try it, but you can stop them. This is the opening battle in a war. So let's throw it back to you. What do you guys all think about this? This is going to go on for a while.
Well, first of all, I want to give Elliot and the whole Catalyst team a big round of applause for filing this lawsuit. It takes a lot to stand up against
doing it
the
for
state
the people
in regards with this. And I do agree with you, Dale. I think ultimately it'll turn into a class action lawsuit, and I think every single cannabis retailer, cultivator, and distributor and manufacturer will be entitled to a major tax credit going into their coffers to where they may not pay taxes for 2 or 3, 4 years.
Yeah, I disagree. I disagree with that, Jay, and I'll tell you why. The state usually doesn't like to give money back after they already have it, number one. Number two, I disagree kind of with how this turns out, and maybe Dale will correct me on this because my legal mind is going in a different direction. I don't like lawsuits, right? Especially in the industry, we get a bunch of these lawsuits. This one, however, I'm going to have to say, Catalyst, in this fight with the tax man, is right. The way the law is written, you can tax cannabis products. Listen, it ain't our fault that you didn't write the law how you wanted to.
Exactly.
If you wanted to tax everything and wanted to put your hand in everybody's pocket, that's not our fault. We pay you and put you and elect you to sit on that hill to be able to do it correctly. That's another point. Okay. But obviously, what happened here, and Dale, you alluded to this, is they saw that Catalyst was going to possibly prevail on this, and they moved the goalpost back. This is super typical of local government. They used to do this to us when we were opening dispensaries back in the early 2000s. You would go and you would try to meet all these requirements. They'd continue to move the goalpost back on you, moratoriums and bans. But this is where I think that, in my sense, this is where I would go with it. I would go straight to the federal court. The Ninth Circuit is going to be favorable in this one, and I would move for an injunction. I'd file a TRO first, and then I'd go for a full injunction afterwards. And I think that would be the move to stop this temporarily anyway, so that we can figure it out before they try to continue to make this a mess, because it is going to be a mess. And when people continue to get taxed when they shouldn't be, and then the state has the money, good luck getting that back. So I don't think anyone's going to get any money back, Luke. I'm saying that I think that they'll get a tax credit so they don't have to pay in going forward. I mean, I hope you're right, Jay. I really do. But yeah. Listen, I'm super pessimistic when the state has their bread in their hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when they've already got the money in hand, it's easier to fight for. You know. First, I just want to say that thank you, Catalyst, for always giving us great news, no matter what.
Yes.
We always get great stories coming out of you guys, and I love these stories that are on behalf of the entire industry. I mean, there is no soldier left behind in this lawsuit for our industry. So thank you for that. And thank you for being so brave. It takes a lot. It takes a lot financially. It takes a lot emotionally. It takes a lot from your businesses. On this, even though it is going to benefit your business, it's a huge step. And so thank you. I love this lawsuit. And I think someone, I don't know who said it in the chat, might be Nick maybe, someone said that this is a lawsuit that is going to bring the industry together.
I agree with that. It definitely does bring the industry together, because I think every single person in the industry thinks this is a good thing. I haven't talked to one person that says that, oh no, this is bad or has something negative to say in regards to. I think everybody comes out a winner. The only loser in this part is going to be the state. Ultimately, I don't see how the state ultimately.
Well, are they really a loser though?
Yeah, I think they are. I don't think there's any way for them to actually win.
No, I mean, overall, yeah, you're right. I don't think they win either, or unless the judge finds that they went back and did it right. But that's beside the point.
We know that's all BS, though.
Right. We do know that,
Yeah.
but that happens. That's my point is like, we know it's BS, but a lot of times they side with BS. But yeah, like I agree, dog. But I don't think it's a loss for the state. I think the state shouldn't be getting it in the first place. So it doesn't, you can't lose something that wasn't yours.
Well, my question is the consumer pays the tax.
Step in there real quick and say,
consumer have standing to go in?
Big ups to Anna sticking their necks out there, and is a great use of Elliot's platform. I know there's plenty of people who love and hate Elliot, but him using his platform to get word out about this is a big unifier. I just wanted to step in and say that real quick.
Yes.
Before I forget.
What were you saying, Dan?
And one of the questions we talked about earlier, Jason, was whether the taxpayer, the person who actually pays that tax,
I was going to go into that.
Store, has standing to bring this suit. Now, I didn't research it. This is a 40-page suit that I went through last night, and it's like, shit, I saw all sorts of issues go in different directions. I think a taxpayer has standing because the law says you can only tax cannabis products and cannabis, and this is clearly a tax on a cannabis accessory. They don't have any of the baggage going on inside the industry. You told me to pay a tax. It's supposed to be on a cannabis product. You tax me for an accessory. I want that to be declared an illegal tax, and I want it refunded. That would blow the lid off of this tax people.
I think it sounds like Armada Law Practice is going to start a pro bono lawsuit on behalf of the patients in a class action lawsuit, and we'll help you find all the necessary patients, Dale, for your firm.
Yeah.
So hold on, though. Real quick question, Dale.
Part that, see, that's the problem. These cost hundreds of thousands of dollars.
You guys got that, bro. You guys grow weed. You guys grow weed. You guys got that.
Dale, I got a quick question, though. So say I have a factory and I built a car and I put a gram of rosin in my car. They could tax me for the entire car?
Well, they could try. And that's what we're seeing right here.
Yeah, that's basically that's a great example. That's exactly what's happening with this.
Well, the analogy the Catalyst gave was a disposable vape pen's $40. Yep. The concentrate inside of it's $5. So they paid a tax on $5, not the $40.
I agree with that.
Okay, I don't know if that's an accurate figure, but let's say you buy a car and they drop. You hear we're gonna gift you a free gram of concentrate. Boom, we're gonna charge the entire $40,000 car as a cannabis product. Yeah, bullshit. 5-year-olds don't buy that story.
Yep. Exactly.
Just to jump in real quick too, Dale, if they are getting $5 rosin, can you have them tap in with profit? Because that sounds like a good deal.
It sounds to me like it probably doesn't taste good.
Sounds like bad rosin.
Yeah, it sounds like trash. Dale, quick question for you, because we did touch on this prior to, and you said that the state it's illegal what they were doing in your things, and then I stepped in and I said no, I've witnessed them do that in the past when they make the retroactive taxes go predate when they're saying what is that called?
Called an ex post facto law.
Ex post facto law. 2007. The state of California all of a sudden decided to say that California was taxable, and not only were dispensaries responsible for paying sales tax as of 2007, but for any dispensary that was open before that, you were retroactively charged for being you retroactively owed sales tax, even that you never collected sales tax because it was never a requirement prior. And they came after me for $1.8 million.
That's not actually true, though.
That's 100% true.
At the beginning of the dispensary system, it wasn't stated that there was two schools of thought. There was one school of thought that said because it's a medicine, it shouldn't be taxed. And then there was another school of thought that said, hey, look, guys, pay your taxes because that is going to be the thing that unites these local governments to be able to want you to have dispensaries in their jurisdictions.
Hold on, we're going to go deep into this because during there was one store operator that in the beginning started to pay sales tax and wanted to break that wave, and that was Kathleen Lemons with the Hemp Center on Gary Boulevard in San Francisco. And let me tell you,
Werner worked at.
This is way before Gilbert, okay? Way before Gilbert. But, okay, Kathleen Lemons was a CPA prior, or her husband was a CPA prior and whatnot, so they thought that that was going to be a legal way. But let me tell you something. The state came after them harder than anybody, and they had more problems in the beginning than anyone else. They had the very first till taps in the cannabis dispensary and everything, all because they were trying to pay taxes, and the state of California said that they didn't want the money, they didn't want nothing to do with it.
Okay.
So therefore, then in 2007, they switched their whole position up and said every dispensary is responsible for paying sales tax now. Cannabis is now a taxable item, and on top of it, it's retroactive if you've been open prior to this date.
Now, that's a great story, but let me tell you about California Healthcare Collective in 2004.
Go for it.
We paid our sales tax from the jump, dong. We paid it from the jump. We never had any problem with the state on the sales tax tip. The Board of Equalization loved us because by the end of it, we were actually made to prepay our taxes. I don't know how that works, but for some reason, once we made a certain amount of dollar over that dollar amount, they made us pay the tax at the beginning of the month.
Yeah, they'll do that. They will do that. I have seen them do that to people where you have to pay estimated based upon what you anticipate your revenue. I have watched them do that, and I have seen them do that, and they have tried to do that to me. I told them to go fuck themselves.
Well, we paid it. We continue to pay it. Pay your taxes. I'm not going to say don't pay your taxes. So pay your taxes. Well, and I'm going to say bad things happen. Now, what we do as a people, though, is we come together and unite, and we change those tax laws because we get to decide what those are. Those tax laws are coming out of our pocket. You get to decide where those go.
And I'm going to say on that, Luke, before we go to the commercial, I'm going to say that Benjamin Franklin said that it's every American's duty to pay as least tax as possible. And on that, we'll be right back. The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated. Oh, yeah. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you hit that like button, and also make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed already. By hitting the like button, that will actually improve your self-esteem for yourself, and so we want to make sure that we are encouraging you to do that. Also, all the articles that you hear on today's story, you can read on our website at www.highat9news.com. I'm Jason Beck, and this is Smoky Vanilla. And if you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to get yourself a stretch and smoke with Smoky Vanilla.
That's right, baby. I'm Smoky Vanilla with my background in kinesiology. I'm a sports massage therapist and stretch coach. I focus mostly on athletes who have chronic pain or injury due to their sport, or the legends of the chronic in the game, baby.
Oh, yeah, you know what it is. We just stretched, and now we're gonna smoke, because you know what it is.
That's right. I love intuitively creating a session based on the individual I'm working with. We'll go through a few assessments, look at the past health history, injury, or anything that's still affecting you today, and create a customized session just for you. Let's go.
That says yeet. Like, we need that.
A yeet button. We'll try to work on that on the soundboard. We'll try to find
All right, I want it by next episode.
Yes.
All right, y'all. With over a decade of regulated cannabis industry, technology, and data experience under his belt, our next correspondent stays on his grind. So it's no surprise that he's currently working on a pro-athlete-focused lifestyle brand by the same damn name. Give it up, y'all, for Sohum Shah.
Thank you, Rico.
Got a delayed applause over there. You know
I mean, Adam was brushing his hair again.
He gave me the slow clap.
BG's on.
All right, so
my clap.
So my story today is about a new ballot initiative that is hopefully going to be on the ballot in Colorado that will allow medical marijuana patients to obtain concealed carry permits for firearms. Since, probably going back to even the 1996 Prop 215 days in California and all the early medical laws, there's always been a question of, does a medical marijuana card or recommendation negate the unlawful drug use statute, or the option on the ATF form that you fill out when you go to purchase a firearm and submit to a background check. So the group in Colorado is named Guns for Everyone, and they see marijuana as a low-hanging fruit for Second Amendment advocacy. And they say that they have some pretty good consensus among both gun store owners and dispensary owners. That's shifted a little bit now that cannabis use and the presence of dispensaries has become more normalized in the past 10 years in Colorado. So they're hoping, they have actually a meeting today with the Secretary of State to get final approval for the initiative to appear on the ballot. And if it does, then it'll appear at the end of the year. This is one of the first states that is actually proactively protecting cannabis users' right to buy and possess firearms. The other one that very notably comes to my mind is Oklahoma's law a couple years ago, that it wasn't intended necessarily to protect cannabis users' rights to own guns. It was just meant to basically not restrict any type of gun ownership in Oklahoma by any federal agency order, administrative action, executive order, anything like that. And unintentionally, the ATF's position statement that cannabis use is still considered unlawful fell under that. So unintentionally, medical marijuana users in Oklahoma are allowed to possess firearms based on that statute. I guess we'll see what happens. First of all, whether this even makes it on the ballot, and then once it does get on the ballot, whether it passes. As somebody that grew up in Colorado, I feel like this is something that is going to pass. It's always been a very purple state, if you will, a place where people believe both in their right to consume cannabis in the privacy of their home and to own firearms. We'll see what happens, and I'm very interested in hearing what the rest of the team thinks.
I just hope this gets on the ballot.
I think this is an issue that Lauren Boebert should take up.
Oh, that would be amazing if she did. Oh,
this is right up her alley.
I would love that. That would be amazing if she started a campaign for this.
This is really, really important. I mean, this is a right as an American to have your own firearms. And just because you use cannabis, you shouldn't be having that right taken away. This is huge.
I mean, Dale, maybe you can jump in, excuse me, as the attorney, but this is really a 10th Amendment issue, right? Are we actually allowing states to determine what is lawful activity within their state or not? Or is a law like Amendment 64 in Colorado, which says anybody over the age of 21 is allowed to possess and consume cannabis, can the federal government just on their own decide?
You cut out, Sohum? You cut out right there for a second.
Oh, I don't know. I just went on mute for a second. I don't know why.
Weird.
But yeah, I guess the question is, can the federal government decide that this is still considered unlawful and, take away a fundamental constitutional right?
Well, at this point, under federal law, it is unlawful to possess cannabis, which is a Schedule I drug, while you're in possession of a firearm. This deals with Colorado law and a concealed weapons law, which is definitely a state law. And I can see a split here of authority where the state would say it's okay for you to carry a gun, a concealed weapon, while you're possessing cannabis, but the feds could walk in and arrest you and charge you federally. And then you have a Second Amendment missing match here, okay? Because the Constitution applies to the state through the post-Civil War amendments, where they applied, the Second Amendment applies directly to the state. They can't make a law which restricts your ability to keep and bear arms. That's going to be the pissing match.
Now this is what this is my actually add on to that, Dale, is the reason I don't really feel this is a 10th Amendment issue, Sohum, is because the 10th Amendment basically states that the states are sovereign and reserve the right to regulate and make their own laws of things that the feds don't regulate and make their own laws. Now, from the beginning, the feds have regulated firearm possession and use, and they made, with the Second Amendment, allowed it in certain circumstances. So that's why you don't have really a 10th Amendment issue here, because this was already federally regulated from the rip. So, but it is. I think the other side of the argument, because it was federally regulated from the beginning, that is where you really attack this from. Because the founders did not make any kind of stipulation on whether or not you used a medicine or whether or not you had an ailment, if that made you or barred you from possessing a firearm. So all of that stuff was created after the fact. I think that's the argument that you go here. Instead of using the 10th Amendment, you would really attack it using the Second Amendment.
Yeah, I would really like to see the NRA step in and endorse this, and maybe even put some money in.
They got their own problems right now, Jason.
I'm just saying that's what I would like to see.
NRA they're working through their own problems right now. Man, Wayne.
And I mean, the NRA is way beyond just a gun.
New allies on their team.
Exactly.
Well, but this is the reason why so many of my veteran clients never wanted to get one of those medical marijuana cards and be on paper as, using cannabis, because there's a question here. I don't know the answer to it, honestly. I mean, a lot of attorneys going to make a lot of money trying to figure this out, because you do have the 10th Amendment might be applicable here, because any power that's not specifically given to the federal government or prevented from the states have that power, okay? Now, what does that mean? Because the grant of authority to keep and bear arms is an amendment to the Constitution. It's not a specific grant for the federal government. It's a prohibition from the government doing certain things, okay? So you just see the layers of shit happening here, and people who are into the gun industry don't want to admit that they smoke weed, like it was bad admitting you were gay in the 60s, okay? They don't want to get in the middle of that because they know the problems involved here, and I really don't have an answer. I have clients that hire security companies to come in, and those security guards are armed, okay? And I don't know the answer to that because you're in close proximity to a Schedule I drug with a gun.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point, Dale. That's actually a very good point. And then you could even go a little bit further and say, like, if the gun, see, a lot of ways the feds regulate this too is because the guns and a lot of the parts and bullets and stuff are made from outside of the state, right? So that would be an interesting argument, is if the gun completely was assembled, manufactured, built, and bullets and everything were done inside of Colorado, what would be the answer then? That's an interesting part.
Yes, but we got to
say we have Commerce Clause authority, so we're taking it.
Did you have something to say? You were saying, Sohum?
No.
Okay. All right, we're gonna keep this. We're gonna keep this.
We got 2 more stories.
Yeah,
left.
we're gonna keep this train rolling. We got to roll. We're gonna roll right on to Miss Manndie Tingler. She's the founder of the Women's Canna Awards, who is going to be coming up in March. And make sure that you get your tickets to this amazing event. Support some women, and some of these women are actually going to be winning prizes to be in a dispensary near you. So make sure. So make sure, whatever you do, that you enter the Women's Canna Awards. If you are a woman-owned brand or produce some type of product like that or something like that, Manndie, just reach out to Manndie. It is none other than Miss Manndie Tingler.
Good morning, everybody. Carmen Sacramento coming at you live from Roseville, California today for here at the High at 9 News. My story dropped originally on the Associated Press, but here we go, High at Niners. My headline reads, New Mexico regulators revoke the licenses of 2 marijuana grow operations and levies $2 million in fines. New Mexico marijuana regulators on Tuesday revoked the licenses of 2 grow operations in a rural county for numerous violations and have levied each a $1 million fine. One of the businesses, Native American Agricultural Development Company, is connected to a Navajo businessman whose cannabis farming operations in northwestern New Mexico were raided by federal authorities in 2020. The Navajo
Whoa. What happened, Manndie?
Those operations. A group of Chinese immigrant workers sued McNally and his associates and claimed they were lured to northern New Mexico and forced to work long hours illegally trimming marijuana on the Navajo Nation, where growing the plant is illegal. In the notice made public Tuesday by New Mexico's Cannabis Control Division, Native American Agricultural Development was accused of exceeding the state's plant count limits, of not tracking and tracing its inventory, and for creating unsafe conditions. The other business to have its license revoked was Bliss Farm, also located in rural Torrance County, within miles of Binyali's operation. The state officials said that 2 businesses east of Albuquerque are not connected in any way. The illicit activity conducted at both of these farms undermines the good work that many cannabis businesses are doing across the state. Clay Bailey, acting superintendent of the New Mexico Regulation and Licensing Department, said in a statement, "The excessive amount of illegal cannabis plants and other serious violations demonstrates a blatant disregard for public health and safety and for the law." State regulators cited Bliss Farm for 17 violations. Regulators said evidence of a recent harvest without records entered into the state's track and trace system led to the division to conclude that plants were transferred or sold illicitly. Adam Oakley, an Albuquerque attorney representing the group of investors that own the operation, told the Associated Press in an interview that the company had hoped the state would have first work with it to address some of these issues before revoking the license. They claimed that they did their best to get into compliance, but, quote, fell far below the bar. Also added that they were afraid that this state's action might discourage others from coming into the industry within the New Mexico borders. The company has invested tens of millions of dollars into the operation and will likely have to go to court to reopen the farm, Oakley said. As for Native American agricultural development, regulators said there were about 20,000 mature plants on site, which is 4 times more than the number allowed under its current license. Inspectors also found another 20,000 immature plants. The other violations included improper security measures, no chain of custody procedures, and ill-maintained grounds with trash and pests throughout. Compliance officers also saw evidence of a recent harvest, but no plants had been entered into the state's track and trace. The violations were first reported last fall by Searchlight New Mexico, an independent news organization. At the time, Navajo Attorney General Ethel Branch told the nonprofit group that the tribe and the Shiprock area still deserved justice for the harm done previously by the grow operation that had been set up in northwestern New Mexico in earlier years. Now, you guys, it's interesting to me that these operators were given licenses from the jump, which implies that at some point they had to have been in compliance during an inspection process. So it's interesting to me that the lawyer is quoted later on as saying that they did their best to get in compliance. Additionally, this just goes to show you that when you decide to move into a compliant lane of the industry, you're going to be subject to following the rules and the expectations. There will be people checking up on you, and there are people out there that want you to fail. So it's best to follow the rules and document every harvest and every plant and stay within your limits. One of the other things that really just made me sad was that this has a strong tribal connection. So, fellow correspondents, we definitely have a lot to talk about in this article. What do you have to say about this and this revocation of 2 licenses in New Mexico?
I will say that I'll jump right in and say, yes, I agree, follow the rules. Many of the rules are stupid, but follow them until we can fix them. The second one is there's a super double standard that happens in this industry. I can go to a restaurant that can have rats running through the food, and they get shut down for a period of time until they figure it out and fix it, and then they get to reopen. But a cannabis organization grows too many plants, shuts everything down, loses their license, game over. Like, come on, man. Like, for real?
Mm-hmm. For real, son.
I have questions about the amount of the fine. There was a Supreme Court case, I think 3 or 4 years ago, Timms versus Indiana, where they took a guy's sports car because he had a couple $100 worth of coke in the ashtray, and they applied the Eighth Amendment excessive fines rule to that. And I think that that's something I'd bring up here. $1 million fine makes me think, is this an excessive fine? And I don't view a revocation as a fine. That's a state law matter. But this seems like a lot of money to be fined. And you have an opportunity to be heard about this? Do you really get noticed and a chance to go fight against these, or is it just going to be rubber stamped on you?
Very, very, very true. Very true, Dale.
Very, very.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And we got to roll into this next one, y'all. Closing us out today, it's the dope dad, author, activist, entrepreneur, OG, trailblazer, warrior for justice, and living proof that real ones do still exist. Our very own friendly neighborhood outlaw, Luke Scarmazzo.
Don't forget, published author as officially
That's in
today.
that first.
High price on Amazon.
That's in the first. The author.
Yeah.
Buy that book. Buy that book, y'all.
High price, man. Available on Amazon. Go cop it, man. The Luke Scarmazzo story. It brings you back to the early days of pre-prohibition, Prop 215 era, Medical Marijuana Program Act. Anybody who's nostalgic for those times and how we used to get like 4,000 a pound. Go check it out.
5,500 a pound.
But my story here is not on too great of a thing. And, hey, I'm not trying to be the downer here, but we cover the outlaw news over here. And when you're dealing with the neighborhood outlaw, and, well, this one is touches our men and women who are in our armed forces. And I support all the people that fight overseas. I support everyone who joins. All your sacrifices are not cherished enough, let's say that, and everything that you guys should have coming should come to you, but we have to fight for some of that. So this is where this story comes. Service members convicted of marijuana crimes by military again excluded from Biden's pardons. Coming to you from military.com. President Joe Biden issued a new proclamation last month pardoning Americans federally charged with simple possession, attempted possession, and use of marijuana, but none applies to its service members. Don't feel too bad, service members, because I don't think none of that applies to anyone, but it's okay. A White House official confirmed to military.com on Tuesday that Biden's December 22nd, 2003 proclamation did not apply to offenses under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, the federal body of laws enacted by Congress that applies to active duty military service members and some retirees accepting the pension. So Biden issued this thing last October for simple possession after he said he was going to free everybody who was incarcerated for cannabis and zero out their records and expunge them. Didn't do that. Issued this proclamation pardoning everybody for simple possession. And then they go another step further during a few weeks ago and say, we're because we support cannabis, like we're going to do this other big pardon on everybody who also had simple possession and attempted possession and use of marijuana in DC and on federal lands. That's going to be a real big splash, Mr. President. Let me just tell you. Zero effect again. So this is like one of those things and there's an article written in The Hill, go check it out, by Rachel Barclow and Mark Osler, who they kind of touch a little bit on this too and talk about like, hey, look, this is like one of those situations in like Christmas when they wrap a big present and then you open the present and then there's like nothing in it. That's basically what happened here. And well, Rachel Barclow and Mark also, they say it's like an old gag, right? And they said, it's a popular misconception that people are moldering away in prison for simple possession. That just isn't true, and it hasn't been true for decades. So, again, like, I don't want to be the person that like downs on anybody getting out, because there were 11 people that were granted commutations in that proclamation. They didn't have any cannabis offenses, even though it kind of was alluded that they may have, they didn't. And listen, those people were in prison for some really unjust things. Those 11 people got their lives back, and that is awesome. There's 11,000 more people that have exactly that same similar situation in prison right now that aren't getting these pardons. So we have to fix that. We can't rely on President Joe Biden or any other president for that matter to have to fix these unjust and just completely ridiculous laws that we have on the books that we're still continuing to hold people accountable for. And here we're holding our armed forces, people who served our country, people who are actively serving our country, people who are putting their life on the line because afterwards they want to use cannabis. They're not incapacitated while on duty or anything like that. This is dirty UAs. These dudes are these men and women are being drug tested, and then they're having these penalties put onto them. And the president's saying, I'm not going to pardon you. I'll pardon everybody else. I'll pardon everybody on native lands. I'll pardon everybody on DC. I'll pardon the whole United States, but you're not going to pardon the people who serve the country? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So it goes on to talk about, while the president does have unilateral right to, under certain circumstances, be able to use his power to pardon these individuals, that he's just not doing it. And, you know, we hope that, look, Mr. President, before you get out of office, it is such a low-hanging fruit to release everyone who is incarcerated for cannabis. These are nonviolent offenders. They're sitting in prison for laws that really are antiquated and have your predecessor, Obama, called these laws outdated and unjust. So we're almost 10 years removed from that, and we still have people in prison now. We have to get this correct. We can't rely on presidents to get this correct. These proclamations that they're issuing, they're hollow, they're symbolic, they're not doing anything, they're not having any real world effect, and we have to be able to we have to be able to call it out when it happens. I know, like, I'm not the person, everybody wants to say, oh, like, let's not call attention when they're doing something good. Yes, there were good things that happened there, but we do have to call attention when it's BS. And these proclamations are BS. They're not having any impact on the cannabis community. They're not freeing any people who are incarcerated for cannabis. And that's what we need done.
Facts. Preach.
Facts on facts, man.
Preach.
Quick comments on this one before we close out?
I mean, I agree with everything Luke said.
Oh, straight up, man.
Yeah.
Free all of them.
Straight up.
Pardon all of them. Let it be washed out tomorrow. Blanket pardon for everybody.
Especially when he said the president is...
Hey, I'm a veteran, and it sucks. Mm-hmm. And I was charged with manufacturing and distribution. So I don't see anybody putting those on the list, but it was still a nonviolent crime involving cannabis. I don't know that they're going to get to the point where they look at this realistically and know what the charging decisions were. You got to get to 100 plants or 100 kilos in order to make it worth their while, or it's just a misdemeanor and they don't want to bring them. So they wrapped a lot of this up in bullshit charges. And now it's just hard to watch people play games with this, because this is not a game. Luke and I had our lives turned upside down
at all, and
we still got a felony on our record for things that today we're getting a pat on the back and they're taking our tax money for.
And overtaxing. Don't forget that part, Dale. Overtaxing.
Oh yeah,
overtaxing.
Always.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, all those.
Yeah, but thank you all for joining us for yet another episode of High 9 News, the second, or is it the third?
It's the third, bro. It's the third. Can you count? 1, 2, 3. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. 1, 2, 3. Yeah,
magic number, baby. Magic number. You
can catch us live weekdays 9 a.m. Depository got him.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel it in my fingertips.
I bet.
A big shout out to the super fans showing love, getting their comments posted live on the big screen, to our live audience and online supporters catching us across all media platforms, tuning in each day to the headlines of chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry, to our vetted correspondent team tuning in from all over, bringing us much needed variety of perspective and your respected opinions to the table, to our production team, Cloud Media Partners, Adam over there feathering his hair so eloquently. Yes,
he might fly away.
Keeping the lights on and our AV struggles to a minimum. Always Cannabis Sativa L, the reason we show up to read these stories every single day. Thank you too. It has been Wednesday, the humpiest of all days, January 3rd, 2024. The show's over. You've all been blessed with the top industry headlines. Hope it's enough for you to put in your pipe and smoke at least until tomorrow. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street. Uncle Dale, Tio Loco. What you got for us?
Oh man. Shout out to Luke. Good job, Luke. Tell that story. And also, we're just in the worst troubled times right now since I was in high school back in the 60s. And I just think we all got to have a measure of hope here. Smoke a doobie. That's an old term. Chill out a little bit. Look on the bright side here. And just remember, as John Lennon said, we're all fucking peasants. Let's just move forward and join hands and see if we can fix these problems. There you go.
Just